Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Wednesday Math Up. And this week we are again looking at our Math Up program that we follow here at Ottawa Catholic School Board and at St. Emily's School. And we're still in that multiplicative reasoning stage where we're looking at phase two. And for this week, we're looking at the common task for the grade 5 open number line. And so when we take a look at that grade 5 open number line, you can see that we've got the following numbers, which I have a mixture of fractions and percentages and decimals and integers. And so this one is really about understanding the relationship that exists between all of them and how they would all relate within that number line concept. So when I look at the numbers, again, I look at 0. I understand 0 to be an integer. However, it can also represent various fraction form or even a decimal form, depending on how I think of it. So a 0 would simply be that placeholder that means absolutely nothing. There's no value there at all. And so it could be 0 over 10, it could be 0 over 100, because I could have 100 parts, but I don't use any of them. And so that would be a 0. My next one would be 1/2. And when I think about 1/2, I could also say 1 over 2. I could say 50 out of 100. I could look at anything. And so if I jump over to a hundreds chart and think of it in terms of a hundreds chart, 1 over 2 or half is going to be halfway through that chart. And so if I'm looking at 100, well, where would the halfway point be? It would be at 50. And if I think in terms of that number line, where would I put my 1/2 mark? Well, let's use my push pin here. And I'm going to put it about halfway through my number line. So I'm going to use my push pin. I'm going to put a 0 down there just so I don't lose track of this. So I've got my 0 in place. I've got my half in place. Now, again, if I'm thinking of this number line in terms of that 100, 25% lends itself very nicely to that because percent simply means out of 100. So it would be 25 out of 100. And so again, if I look at my hundreds chart, where is my 25 located? Well, my 25 is actually half of 50. And so again, if I go back to my number line and I think of that 25%, I know 25% is going to be halfway between my 0 and my 50. Again, 0.75, that's 75 hundredths. If I think in terms of 75 hundredths, though, that hundredth being a value of 1, 75 hundredths out of that, well, the 75 is right there, and I can see that it's actually halfway between the 50 and the 100, located right there. And so again, 0.75 is going to be in that spot right there. As I continue to move forward, 3 out of 5. So again, if I think in terms of my numbers chart, this one can be a little bit tricky. But again, if I think in terms of how many 5s do I have 100? Well, I know I have 20 of those. And if I apply that 20 to the 3 and count out by 3, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I'm halfway there at this point. In fact, I could extrapolate because 10 is half of 20, and I'm currently sitting at 30. I know that 3 out of 5 is actually going to bring me to 60. If I was to do this calculator, I would see it, if I was to take 3 divided by 5, I would get an answer of 0.6 or 60 hundredths. And so I know 60 in this particular case is going to be what I'm looking at. Well, I know right there I've got my 50, and there's my 75. So I'm going to put my push pin right about there. I'm going to put it 3 out of 5. It's going to be located at approximately where that 60 is. 9 tenths is the same as 90 hundredths. So again, if I look at my number line, oh, it's way down here. In fact, it's just short of that 100 mark. So I'm going to put my 0.9 over in that area. My 1, I've already established that my number line is using a value of 0 to 100. My 1 is that full value, or that, in this particular case, going to serve as that 100. So I'm going to put my 1 in there. Oh, need to draw my over a little bit. And finally, at my last one, 0.1 or 10 1/10 or 10 hundredths. And again, if I look at my chart here, I can see that's way up at the top. So that's actually between my 0 and my 25, and it's a little bit closer to my 0. So I'm actually going to put my 1/10. Oops, my push pin there. And in fact, if I was to think of this and break it out according to my 100 chart, I can see that 10 hundredths is 1, would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if I think of my number line, if I was to do some skipping here, I would go, there would be 2 tenths, 3 tenths, 4 tenths, 5 tenths, 6 tenths, 7 tenths, 8 tenths, 9 tenths, 10 tenths. And if I was being very precise, that push pin would actually be located the exact same distance between here and here, and in fact would be the exact same distance between here and here, because 50 to 60, 90 to 100, 0 to 10. So my spacing's a little bit off, but it's pretty close. So that really is the nice thing about a number line. And so if I look at my second question, how do you know where to place 3/5? Well, that's where I was doing my jumping, understanding that I have 25s at 100, and I counted out 20 jumps off of 3. So 3, 6, 9, 12. Got to my 30, doubled that, and brought to my 60. So I knew that it was going right in that area right there. So I hope that helps you in terms of multiplicative reasoning and how we apply that from a MathUp standpoint. Thank you.